Rudolph Walker. Come. Is that all right? Okay. That's true. So here's Rudolph coming up on stage now. I noticed you didn't jump, Rudolph. Come and join us. Now, I'm just wondering if any of the other actors who were in the film are here, who I may not know are here. Any of the others here? Show of hands? No? Did any of you recognize any of the others? Okay, let's leave it then.
Oh, why?
You know I love you sitting next to me.
Why?
Okay, now this is the Q&A part. So really, what we want to know is your views from the audience. But before we start, just allow me a little moment, just ask a few questions. It's the old journalist in me. Okay, Frances Anne, what made you want to tell that story? Because there's a beautiful line in the film. I mean, there were loads of beautiful lines. And I have to say, before I say much more, I want to commend Frances Anne on this, on the language, on the tone, on the music, on the beautiful scenery. I just want to say thank you. That was absolutely amazing. Yeah. But there was one part where C.L.R. James says, they will stop at nothing to stop us owning our narrative. Now, what Frances Anne has done is made sure that we're all aware, our children and others who didn't know Ulric's life as well as even I did, now know his full story. I just want to know from you, what compelled you to want to make this film?
Well, I told you about the deathbed promise and the fulfillment of that. I think the moment when I got engaged was when the whole Africa story kind of unfolded in front of me. But in terms of that particular line, I will say that I worked at the BBC for 15 years. And in my first job, which was at Ebony, the BBC's first black magazine program.
Which I presented.
That's where I know you from. I was trying to remember why you were so familiar to me. We were covering the Broadwater farm riots, right? Oh, no, the Broadwater farm...
Uprising.
No, sorry, uprising, yeah. But trials. The trials after when all those boys were arrested and put on trial. And six men were unjustly charged and sent to jail for 25 years. But I remember going to the farm afterwards, after the verdicts went down and the convictions had been handed down. We covered the trials for weeks. And the community was angry. They were upset. And we interviewed people and so on. We went back to the BBC and we put together a show that was to go out that night as current affairs. And the head of BBC Network Television came down to the editing studio in the basement and stopped the broadcast because he said it was not balanced. He said it wasn't balanced, that black people having a voice was not true. And I can't tell you how that marked me. So when I learned that Ulric had been working at the BBC and also that he walked out of that job, I thought I knew why. And I felt that the whole telling of this story is about telling our stories and our words from our point of view, all of it, uncensored. And so that's why I wanted to tell a story.
I'm going to turn very quickly to my lovely friend here, Rudolph. I know that... behave. I'm asking permission from his wife.
Permission not granted.
Now,
Yes.
Rudolph, many of you know you obviously from the screen. They know you from EastEnders, but they don't always understand the background. Again, another champion with his Rudolph Walker Drama Awards and his foundation, and also the work that he's done behind the scenes with our late, great Bernie Grant MP. to make sure that we have the fulfillment of the Bernie Grant Arts Centre and numerous other charities along the way. He's done lots of work with the Mary Seacole Memorial Statue. I see Sister Monica out there. And also with the Amos Bursary and lots of other charitable work. Now, this man, Ulric, this is somebody that you clearly felt very passionate about.
Oh, very much so. I was fortunate to spend a lot of time with him when he was High Commissioner over here. And with due respect to all the other High Commissioners that Trinidad has had over here, I found him accessible. I found him very warm. He was a man of the people. I can't praise him high enough. There's one little, a little incident that an invitation I got from Ulric those many years ago, and that was to accompany him to Lancaster House for a meeting of various dignitaries. And I thought, me, Rudolph Walker? You inviting me? He said, yes, I would like you to come along. And when I arrived, there was my name at Lancaster House at the table. But that's the man. But before there isn't really a great deal. So when my dear friend approached me and said, look, we want to do this documentary film on Ulric, how many years ago? I just said, whatever you want me to do, I'll try and get the time off from EastEnders, and I'll be one of the first guys that you'll have on your cast list or whatever. And it wasn't in fact, at that point in time, it wasn't really a case of playing any particular character. It was just being involved in such a fantastic story. I knew a little bit about Ulric at the time. But also what was satisfying for me, and don't know whether you're prepared to say any more about that. When this beautiful lady here was a student, and her very first, at the end of your training as a director, you're asked to do a small film to present to the powers that be, the directors and producers and your teachers. And somehow that she got in touch with me and said, Rudolph, or Mr. Walker, I think she referred to me. I'd love you to be in this little film. I'm a student. And Carmen Monroe and myself said, yes. So here I am, many years later, working for this fantastic director.
Excellent. Is he good to direct? Does he follow orders well? Let's move on. Moving swiftly on. Fraser James.
I think, actually, to be honest, you see that there were a lot of really big British actors, important British actors who got involved. And I really honestly believe that because Rudolph was involved, it created an atmosphere of safety, because they didn't know me as a director. I'd been away for a very long time. And it wasn't a Hollywood movie. It was very low budget.
Low budget.
Very low budget. But I won't go into details about how I actually got all those people to jump on board. But I will say that it gave it a legitimacy and a status and a safety that Rudolph gave it his blessing and was our patron. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Fraser James.
Hi.
What an absolute brilliant privilege it was.
Absolutely.
You know what? From start to finish. Yeah? Real power.
Absolutely.
Real power. Yeah. You aged. It was
thick. Yeah.
It was just
the ever-adjusting wig.
It's fine. It's okay.
Yes. How did you find it? The whole story, the way it was done with the documentary and the live filming and everything.
It's to see it again, because I was, thank you, Francis Ann, for inviting me to Trinidad for the premiere, which was amazing. And the movie's slightly changed since then. But to sit here and watch it again, You know, I think what Francis San did amazingly was combine that archival footage with what we shot. You know, really well. That really does. It really does. As you know, I mean, I think a big thing of going to the cinema is that you're immersed into a different world and you exist in that world for the entirety of the movie, and then you come back into normal life again. But you know, watching it, I'd say it's kind of bittersweet watching it, because I love being immersed in it, but I'm absolutely gutted at the contrived missed opportunity that we all had for the United States of Africa, just watching it.
Absolutely.
And you realize how close that might have been and how contrived it absolutely was to make certain it didn't happen. But at the same time, by the end of the movie, and I think that's fantastic what you did right at the end of the movie, I'm left uplifted, and I'm left strong. And I'll say this to a man that's in the audience right now, Franklin Rogers, who's an amazing photographer. He's a genius artist that we have amongst us. And I'm working with Frank at the moment on another project. And I just say, watching this, Frank, you know, it just gives me such spirit and hope that we can deliver again and stand on the shoulders of these ancestors that we have, you know, and try our best to do something which is worthy of them, you know, and who went before us. So, I mean, I think that playing George was you know, for me, a real moment, you know, as an actor, because I didn't know anything about him before, prior to meeting Francis San. Francis San broke down to me who he was on our first meeting. I went away, I did some research, and when I found out who this guy was, it just blew me away, you know, and not only who he was, but the people he had around him, and where they came from. Came from the Caribbean, from Trinidad, and I was like,
Trinidad, yes.
how? You know? So, yeah.
All right, from the West Indies, from the Caribbean. All right.
I think there were a few from Guyana as well, right? And Jamaica.
And Jamaica, yeah.
St. Lucia, Barbados, Vincentians. Here we go.
And Grenada.
And Pippa, where are you from? What do you know? Shout out. What shout out? Bedfordshire. Let's hear it for Bedfordshire. Pippa, what I really loved about the way you played Ulric's wife was actually how feisty she was, how strong, you know, not a shrinking violet in any way. What did you think of the whole process? Were you aware of Ulric or George Padmore or anything like that?
Again, I feel like before I sort of share my sort of experience of it, I just want to say thank you so much to Francis Anne for that amazing movie that, you know, as an actor, you literally, you know, you work hard and you do your sort of pathway through the film, but it's not until these moments you actually watch it and you go, that brain, that's what you were holding all together while, you know, we were sort of talking through and planning Anne and Ulric's story. But I was so moved. I feel so, everything in me is sort of vibrating with so many different emotions of watching that film. And thank you so much. And I just turned to someone next to me and I was like, I've done a number of flipping films, but this one was like, is really extraordinary, and I can't wait for it to have more and more life. I really hope it does. So it feels like an absolute privilege to be part of that story. And watching back the scenes that Nikolai and I did, you know, were really great to watch, and interspersed with the real Anne Cross, who, you know, that's my inspiration, because she has, I mean, like, so much life to her.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's amazing. Like, she just, and when I met with Francis the first day, you know, to actually just see whether I was going to get the job, she sent me all this footage of Anne Cross, and I just was like, I just love this woman.
Yeah.
I absolutely love her. And normally as an actor, you watch back at your stuff and you go, I hate what I've done. But I was, again, I just was like, I love this character. I think she's amazing. And the process that Frances Anne provides on set is really one that is very improvisational. So there is a skeleton of a scene. I mean, obviously, this woman has got the whole story really like there and contained in her head, but she gives you so much freedom, like so much freedom, but at the same time is like, that's shit. Come on. I know you've got better in you. So I don't know about, Rudolph and Fraser, but I feel like, each scene we did was, you could have like, I don't know, it was like an open-ended sort of scene. It was fantastic. And then you've spliced it together so beautifully. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you what it means to me to get that kind of feedback from these partners, because through when I was putting the film together over the years since I've seen them, I wanted to do justice to the energy and the commitment and the passion and the intelligence that they brought to those roles. And there was so much material to choose from. And we cut it every which way. There were about 50 different films that were cut. And at the end of the day, when I was finished the film, the actors were the first people I called. I called to say, I've done it, I've finished it, I want you to see it, because I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of them. They're such brilliant, brilliant, brilliant actors, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Have you seen so much talent? No, seriously. When do actors get used? I'm boasting now, but when do you see actors acting their hearts out like that? It's wonderful.
And a lot of it is down to you, my dear.
Yes.
You also have the talent and the quality to bring the best out of us. And my only regret is that that I didn't work with you prior to this.
We'll now.
And I hope I will now. But no, the film itself was, there's so many messages that ran through the film that, number one, greed. Greed. And it's eating the souls of us. It's eating our innards anywhere you turn, whether it be the Caribbean, whether it be in Africa, whether it be over here. The bottom line is greed seems to fuel us, and we don't seem to get anywhere above a certain level. We need to change that. We need to leave legacies for our children. We can't follow and just take. We have to give. We have to create a society where we, as people, can exist. And I think those were lines that were used at some stage by Nkrumah. Greed. And that was, to me, that came through so powerful through the film. Togetherness, supporting and helping each other. So.
You're absolutely right. One thing coming out of that, one thing I wanted to ask for, because we all agree this is an absolutely phenomenal film. Where does it go from here? You mentioned a short run, but it's the distribution, isn't it? We need somehow.
Yeah.
I was saying to the chef, we had a little a green room. Most of you didn't, but we did. It was lovely, very tasty, superb chef. And I was saying to him that we've got a big event coming up, and we have to use the hotel's caterers, which are nowhere near as fabulous as him. He's absolutely a brilliant chef. And I was saying, what a shame we don't own it. We don't own the sort of hotel where we have decent chefs that we can just go to and have our functions. And it's kind of the same thing here. Spike Lee said the same when he was doing Malcolm X. He said, the distribution is the important thing. So what now happens to a film which should be seen by everyone? What happens?
Well, we've got a limited theatrical release in London, going up into the regions. And then we're going to go to, it's my commitment to take it back to all the audiences that I call it the Hero World Tour, to take it back to all the audiences that that fed its creation. So we're going to Ghana and across Africa, South Africa. We're going to. We're opening in the States at the end of the month. At the end of this month, we'll be on May the 30th. We'll be screening it at the Lincoln Center, and I'll build a release around that. There's no question that it's hard. It's very, very difficult. What can we do? We just have to push and get our work seen, and do what we have to do to get it out. And thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Yep.
Write that down. We're writing down May 30th Lincoln Centre because people I want to get to see it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. All of us need to know where it's going so we can use our contacts.
Yeah,
Make sure.
June 22nd, we start at the Britsy.
Ritzy,
At the Britsy here.
22nd.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we have seven screenings in different locations around London.
Okay.
Piccadilly Circus. We're going to give you the list.
Give the info. Okay. Well, we will all make sure that our contacts hear that, okay? Now, I know that you've come here not just to see the film, but also to ask questions of all the people who are here. Can I throw it out to the floor?
Of course.
Yes? Oh, one hand goes up immediately. I'm not sure if we've got microphones.
I can project.
What a lovely audience.
Do you want to say, give your name as well, and if you want to put a context to it, I'm very happy. Would you
Sure.
mind standing so the world
okay.
can see?
As
Thank
an
you.
actress, this is my dream. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. My name's Alexandra Afrier. I was in contact with Francis Anne some years ago because you did a documentary called Reunion, about the
Caribbean women who served in the Second World War.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I watched that, and I was just astounded about that history, which I knew nothing about. So when I saw this, thanks to the Black History Walk, so it was my husband who saw it in the newsletter and told me about it, and I immediately booked. And I knew that he was in the war. I had no idea about this. Just want to say, everyone, amazing job. You should get the BBC to help with distribution. But anyway, my question is, you said it took 9 years to get this off the ground. Can you just give us a timeline of what happened during that time, please?
Sure. It's not that I was just doing this for 9 years, okay? I want you to think I'm thick or something. I have another company called Caribbean Tales, and I run a festival and incubator program. I have I have about 4 or 5 different companies that keep me very busy. But I started this film. I jumped on board, as I told you when Desmond died, and the first thing I did was interview Ulric. So all those pieces in there of Ulric talking to camera were interviews that I did with Ulric at the time. And I thought that it would be a documentary at the time. And then I began, and so based on the interview, I laid the interview out on a timeline and looked at his life. Then I began to research what was happening in those places that he was talking about going to, in order to put flesh on it, because at that point he was very literal in the way that he described it. And he would say, I did this and I went to that and such happened, but he wouldn't say, I felt this. And he had sort of potted anecdotes. I'm sure you remember that, Abigail. He had anecdotes that he would tell, and Richard, over and over and over and over again. But it was difficult to get under them and behind them and into the man. Actually, he was quite guarded. He was, emotionally, and in terms of, his feelings and stuff. So as a filmmaker, you want to move people, and you want to get into the blood and guts of a character. And that was really the biggest challenge I had. And so I did tons of research. Must have spent a year, and I learned so much. And then I began to narrow down what interested me, what grabbed me, the piece that grabbed me, that I felt was the untold story of the role that Caribbean professionals played in the African liberation movements, and how that was planned and concerted, and how it was undermined. That was why we don't know about it. And because I kept, anyway, I mean, it's very complicated. And then the issue came, okay, what is this going to be like? How are you going to tell the story of a man, which is also the story of his times, which is, how do you tell a story about a life that is also the story of the movement of history and the fall of empire, which is what it was, that crux period. And then I think I gradually found the voice of Ulric through the character of Nikolai. And he was good, huh?
Oh,
Wasn't
yes.
he fabulous? Wow. Yeah, he was amazing. And he also lived the film for, 5 years, yeah. Through the voice of Nikolai, and he worked really, really closely with me. And I began to use this technique that I also used in Reunion, which was to take archive, doesn't have black people in it, and cut us into it. I did that with Reunion. Adjoa, are you still here? There's Adjoa. So Adjoa Ando was in Reunion, my film, and we had so much fun. She played one of the women, Caribbean women, and herself and Martina Laird dressed up in uniforms, and we shot drama pieces, and then we cut out the white people, and we cut in the black people. So we put black women into history. Yay. It's like film terrorism, right? It's like Banksy, but film Banksy, right? And I love doing it. I can't even tell you how much I love doing it. I love taking, war, any kind of scene that you see that doesn't have us in it, and then just shooting it and cutting it in, and it looks completely believable. Nobody would think you made it up, right? Because we didn't make it up. We were there. So that was when I discovered that, and I think the moment I discovered that was in the Independence scene, when we shot that scene with about 8 people, the Ghana Independence scene. You were there. And the actors were telling me, you don't want to do this. Don't you know that there were 1 million people there? And I was like, yeah, I want to do it. And so we shot it. There were 8 people there, 8 people and the actors. And then I got the footage and I intercut it. I told the editor to intercut it with my 8 people and put a football stadium track onto it and to amplify the voice so that it sounds like he's on a microphone. And it's so moving and real. I thought I found it. I found the voice of the film. So those are the kind. And then the other breakthrough I had was I always wanted it to be from my point of view. And so right from the beginning, I worked very closely with Nicola, his daughter. I wanted her to be me in the film. I wanted it to be the point of view of a mixed-race woman of another generation, a younger mixed-race woman. And the moment when I discovered that I could actually cast an actor to play that me, Nicola role, that younger mixed-race woman, the voice of another generation, another gender, the future. That was a big breakthrough, that she would be our perspective into the film. Yeah. So
It worked beautifully. Thank you. That's excellent. Thank you. Yeah. Right, another hand. We have a gentleman here. 3 rows up. Yes. And there's Charlie over there. Okay. So.
My name is Peter Amreka.
Hi.
I'm chairman of the Royal Air Force Association City and Central London branch. I was in the Royal Air Force from 1961 to 1970 in the Royal Air Force Medical Branch. What I'd like to say is a commentary on how the amplification of what we've done in Britain and elsewhere in the world has been amplified in this film. Although it talks about the Royal Air Force and the experiences there, I think it's important that what it has done is to inspire people to what can be achieved. And in particular, it's brought to the attention at a time when we are trying to in the UK, we're trying to say, well, we all contributed to lots of different things. We have the excellent lead actor, as I see it, in EastEnders there. And really, these people of brilliance, it's good to see that it's highlighted. In the war, both the First World War and the Second World War, millions of people from the Caribbean and Asia contributed. And it's good that these contributions are being recognized. In Britain, I have next to me here the chap from the Nubian Jack Foundation. And I think what is being done there in identifying people of color who have contributed to British society and putting plaques up in their homes of former residents is absolutely first class. So for me, thank you very much, Francis Anne and your team that have put together a brilliant film. You have added to the amplification which we needed. So thank you so much.
What do you say, Fraser James, to that? That it resonates very much with what's happening here. It's a really timely piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I say, really, it's a reminder that, you know, there were heroes before us, but we can be heroes as well. You know, I mean, I think that I'm going back to this project that I'm doing with Frank, Underexposed, and one of the things that we're doing is we're photographing black British actors. I don't know if any of you guys are from Peckham, and you would have seen the underexposed portraits that Adjoa was a part of, and also Rudolph was a part of. And with every actor that was a part of that exhibition, we asked them to give us a gem of knowledge, that's something that they live by or something that feeds their daily life. And at the time, my gem of knowledge, this was 10 years ago when we launched it, was there is no deodorant for desperation. And I used to say that before I went into an audition, because I thought, well, you know, you don't want to be desperate walking into auditions. You need to be calm and relaxed and breathing, so that if they smell any element of desperation, you have no chance of getting that job. And coming back to the project now, over 10 years later,